talk to you a little bit about blogging and ethics, and what other exemplar could we have than Britney Spears. So, in the context of talking about the way that we are with each other and the way that we are with the public, I thought that I would offer you a little retrospective. So, Jim, if we could go to the next slide. This is, of course, the famous Britney with the baby in the car. And my suggestion is that blogging is not just a joyride. You do have a responsibility. And I won't go too far overboard in saying that you really have a responsibility to democracy. Each of us gets into blogging because we have a strong point of view, we have a strong belief. But when I think we take that discourse to such an extreme that we actually turn people off from the process, then I think we're doing much more harm than good. It's just a little writing advice, show, don't tell. If you've actually done your job as a writer, you don't have to end your post by saying, so therefore, Joe Blow is a real snake. I mean, you can probably figure that out if you've done your job. My suggestion would be, if you feel compelled at the end that no one will get your point that Joe Blow is a snake, perhaps you might want to go back and re-edit your prose. Next one. It might not be Shakespeare, but there is a culture. I'm really worried about, must this not, boy, this, looking for Britney pictures, I gotta tell you, can occupy days. I'm distressed by sometimes the level of discourse, which seems to me, once in a while, bloggers get down to what I can only describe as the sort of epithets that 4-year-olds would shout at each other in the sandbox. And what I just want to say to all of you is, for heaven's sakes, grow up and don't do that. There's a culture and you're responsible for it. Okay, next one. Now this one, I had sort of forgotten the whole Britney wedding thing. But that was the groomsmen's outfits, I want you to know. And they had classed it up by writing pimps in cursive. It takes, all of us have the opportunity to work with fonts, to add video, to add bells and whistles. Well, I, of course, can't do any of those things. As anybody who reads my blog knows, I'm not capable of adding any of those things to my blog, but one could. And what I'll suggest to you is, at bottom, it's still the words and the thought that matter. Can I have the next one? You are judged by the company you keep. And that, I think, yeah, it's both Lindsay and Paris there. It was really the unholy trio. And what I want to suggest to you is not only who you link to, but in some cases, who you fight with, who you argue with, who you disagree with. And I would suggest to you that those of us who do politics for a living don't by and large have personal enemies. We find ways to get along with everybody. May not agree with them, but you're gonna find, Bob Marshall and I, who probably disagree, I would guess if you looked at our voting records, on any contested issue, we probably disagreed 97% of the time. And yet, I like him as a person, and there are, on occasion, issues where we can work together. And if it's about actually advancing public policy and doing what is the right thing for people, then what I would suggest to you is maybe you don't need to spend quite so much time cooking up enemies and fights. Can we have the next one? Yeah, well, that one's sort of self-explanatory. Okay, we can just move right on. People do remember your tantrums. As people are finding out, you really never erase anything from the internet. It's really always out there. So think about it before you go ahead. Next one. Yeah, I found myself even feeling sorry for Britney, but here's the thing. We're talking about real people. We're talking about people who have, by and large, chosen to put themselves into the public arena. And hardly, and nobody does this for either the fame or the fortune. And so you may really disagree with them, but my strong urging is, can we keep our disagreements to, he has really lousy ideas, rather than, he is a really horrible human being. That's just a personal request. Next one. Yeah, there are worse things than being ignored. And it's, there's a lot of talk in the blogosphere right now about, oh, well, I get XYZ number of readers. Bob and I know that we have a readership in the middle 2 digits, and you know, that's just fine with us. We're not, there are things we're just not going to do to bump that up. Can I have the last? Yeah. This is maybe the most important thing that I would say to you, is really think hard before you push that publish button, and ask yourself, you know, do I really want to do that? And I will conclude with this story. In my very first campaign, which was for school board, I ran against a woman whose every word and every publication dripped with vituperation. And after one joint appearance, I had simply had enough. And I came home and spent about 3 hours writing what I will say was a really fine piece of work, in which I explained in great detail all of the reasons why this woman was a complete lying piece of garbage, not to put too fine a point on it. But in those days, in order to get that work out, we had to go to Kinko's and we had to make copies. So I gave it to my campaign manager, who was also one of my very closest friends, and she read it, and she said to me, "Did it make you feel better to write this?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "Well, good. Then we'll just hold on to it for a few days, and you can feel better about it again when you read it on Tuesday. But we're just not going to do anything about it." Now, in the era of the internet, I probably would have published the doggone thing, and my career would have been over before it ever began. So I would just suggest, before you hit the publish button, my last piece of advice is ask yourself, is that what I really want to do? So those are my thoughts on blogging ethics, and I think Robert's going to take off from there.